The only real God is the one that you believe in. Start looking for the God in others. And if you find you're tuning into a wave, well then I don't know much about being saved.
Hello, everybody.
Hello, friends.
Welcome into another episode of Spiritual Philosophy Chatter with the Joneses. I'm Danny Jones.
And I am Samantha Jones.
And this is episode 147.
147.
What is our topic?
This is letting go of painful experiences. We all have them.
Yeah, we
really
do.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And we all have to learn how to do this.
Yeah, we do.
Which is
not easy.
Not always.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, before we talk about that, anything you want to share from last week?
I do. I have quite a few things. First, I want to say we've gotten so many messages this week, and it's been so cool. And I just want to thank everybody that's reached out and let us know that they're a listener and that they like the show. And, some have set up readings, and it's been really cool. So thank you to everybody that's done that. Really, we appreciate that.
Very cool.
Something else that you can do if you want to help us is wherever you listen to your podcast, iTunes, Spotify, wherever it may be, give us a rating on the podcast there. Yeah, and it helps us a lot. It helps people to find us, and especially iTunes and stuff, it kind of pushes you to the front where you could end up on the front page. So that would be cool.
Yes, please.
Yeah, so thank you again for those messages. And then last week I read Chanel. And I did a psychic reading for her about being a real estate agent. And this is what she said. I just listened to my reading a few times, and I just want to say thank you so much. You really hit the nail right on the head with this one. I just began realizing how much of an empath I am, and that definitely takes a toll on me in my everyday life. When you said that I'm going to be successful and do a lot with my life, that really spoke to me because at times it really doesn't feel like I'm doing much. Thank you again. I really appreciate you, and you've been a huge help in my life this past year. Thank you, Chanel.
Very cool.
One thing I wanted to say about this is that sometimes it does feel like that. It feels like you're not going anywhere when really you're just building a base. Even for me, sometimes I say I feel like I'm not doing anything, but I'm working really hard. It's just that, it takes time to build things. We both are working really hard and experiencing that too. So, yeah, it takes time.
Yeah, it does sometimes feel like you're kind of on this treadmill that's actually not going anywhere forward, but you're moving.
Exactly.
You're doing the work that's but you feel like the scenery's all the same.
Yeah.
But it changes. It'll change.
It does, yeah, for sure. And then it'll get to a new normal, and then it'll be there for a while, and then it'll change again. The next thing I wanted to read is one of the messages that we got this week. It is from Crystal. She said, the title of this is Episode, Are They Okay? First, let me say your podcast is exactly what I needed right now. I don't have concerns that loved ones or pets are not okay on the other side, but something told me to listen to this podcast, and while listening, it just clicked for me. Life is like going to college for your soul. Essentially, we are in spiritual college. As soon as that thought popped into my head, I got major goosebump confirmation. Now I've known for a long time that we're here to learn lessons, but to think of this life as going to Soul University really just makes sense to my brain. You both are killing it. I'm binging listening to your shows. Thank you for the quality content and keep up the good work, Crystal.
Thank you, Crystal.
Yeah, thanks, Crystal.
It's a great analogy, though.
It is.
Because it really is. It's school. It's college, how you want to put it. It's school.
That's exactly right. And it's not easy. And I didn't do real good in school.
I didn't like school. So it's the universe's cruel way of saying, you're not going to get away with that.
Yeah, you got to learn the rest of the stuff.
Right.
You may not be good at the academics.
It's like the school that they don't teach you about. It's not math, arithmetics, English, science, history. It's none of that per se.
Yeah.
There might be some history and things involved, but it's really more about everyday living.
Yes, absolutely. Totally agree with you on that. Yeah. So thank you again for that, Crystal.
Thanks, Crystal.
And then we answer 2 questions every week. The first one is from Hillary. She says, what's the difference between visions and daydreams, even possibly dreams? For instance, I keep having the same reoccurring one. It happens in dreams and daydreaming. It's basically me forgetting about these horses in the field across the street. It's so vivid, and it's the same every single time. I don't recognize the field or horses. If you see the same thing over and over, is this basically a vision that I just don't understand yet? I think it could be.
What? But can I go back really quick? She said forgetting about the horses? What?
Yeah, this is the vision that she has. And I understand what she's saying, because a lot of times I would have dreams, reoccurring dreams about forgetting pet sits. Like when I was pet sitting.
Oh, okay, I get it.
Right.
Oh, never mind.
Yeah.
I understand.
She's
the
forgetting that
context
there's
now.
horses across the street.
Got it.
I guess to take care of or whatever, right?
Right.
So sometimes, okay, like let's say that it is a vision, okay? And I've said this to you, I actually said this to you a few days ago. I can't remember what the vision was, but I said if it's something that I see all the time, then there's a reason why they're showing it to me. One of the examples I remember is when Zuma was little, they always showed me him by the pool here. And it didn't make sense. He was actually sitting in the pool, and I was like, where's this pool and all this, you know? And a couple of years later it happened. But they showed it to me a lot, and that does happen. It may not make sense because this field, you don't know where it is yet, and you don't know who these horses are yet. This could have something to do with, you know, a job in the future or whatever. It could be so many different things. But don't take it too literally, because one of the things that I have found about these visions is that a lot of times they don't make sense, and it'll be like, oh, okay, when they finally happen, like, okay, that makes sense. I was taking it the wrong direction. I thought it was something that it wasn't,
Right.
But it ends up being something completely different. I think if you're, one of the ways, like I tell people, is it a vision or a daydream, is if you are kind of controlling it, it's a daydream. If it just kind of happens, if the story plays out, or if it's the same thing and it doesn't go anywhere, it's not a daydream. If you can't move the story, it's not a daydream. At least this is what works for me, you know? And if you're really like thinking about it and, ooh, what would I do next here and all that, then it's a daydream and not a vision.
Right.
But if it's evolving for you or keeps happening, especially out of the blue, like if you're thinking about horses or something that might like trigger the memory of this, that's something that I would take as, okay, well, I was thinking about it, so maybe it came up, you know. But other things too that they'll show you if this is a vision is different signs to show you what they're trying to tell you in this vision.
Yeah.
So, and those things come up closer to when the vision happens. I hope that wasn't too confusing.
Not at all. That's good.
It's hard to explain
Yeah.
things that I can't even sometimes explain to myself yet.
Moving the story is a good way because, yeah, when I daydream about something, a goal or a fantasy or a dream that I have, I can play it out in my head how I want it to. But there are things that pop into my head like, what is that?
Yeah.
You know? And then I realize I didn't move anything. I just watched it, sort of.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And you can like stifle it too, you know, if you're having the vision. The other day in the shower, I had this cool like story vision that played out about us going to Europe. And I didn't understand it at first. It didn't make a lot of sense, but I was trying to like move it in directions it wasn't supposed to go. And every time I would hear, no, come back and let's start over, you know, and then eventually I would get, okay, I understand where this is going, you know, that takes time too. Right. But yeah, I think that's probably the best way I could explain it.
Good question.
Oh, I thought that was a great question. So thank you, Hillary, for that question.
Thank you, Hillary.
And then I was doing a reading this week for a lady named Cindy, and she asked me something that I don't know if we've touched much on it before, but I thought it might be a good time to talk about again, is how do I know when it's the best time to put my pet down? Yeah.
God, that's always a tough one.
It is a tough one. And you know, every circumstance is different. Yeah. I did a reading for one of our longtime listeners, Sherry, and she has a dog that's showing symptoms of dementia. And what I was feeling was that internally the dog is doing great. You know, things are fine. There's some vision going on, and I can't remember if it was smell or hearing, but one of the two, right? But otherwise, what's happening is the dementia. So it's like you get to a point where whether it's physical or emotional that you have to decide what is the quality of life here? And is the quality of life, is there potential for the quality of the life to get better? Or is it just going to continuously get worse, right? For me, anytime that I'm faced with this kind of situation, I ask myself to look at the 3 things that my pet loves the most. With our dog, Sequoia, that we had to put to sleep, she loved playing ball, going on walks, and eating. And the few days before she passed, before we put her down, she couldn't do any of those. She was throwing up everything that she ate. She collapsed on a walk that I took her on. That was the last walk she went on. She had no interest in playing ball, which she couldn't do for a while.
Right.
So when the things that make their life quality are gone, then that's a good time. It is not a bad thing. Like,
no.
People feel so guilty about this. But you know what? If you were in your end stages of your life and all that was left was suffering, you'd probably want somebody to release you from that suffering if it was possible.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. It's a blessing that we can do this for our pets. I wish we could do this for people.
Yeah.
Because there's no reason to suffer unnecessarily.
No, we should
know?
have that right.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And a body can stay alive a lot longer, or the brain can stay alive a lot longer than the body, and vice versa, really, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So if one's working against the other, it's just, it's just time.
Yeah, especially kind of, there's no point of return. Kind of.
Exactly. I get asked a lot of times about chemo for pets.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, my stance on chemo is don't do it. And I know every situation's different, but I've never had a positive outcome.
Yeah.
And mostly it's because animals live such a short lifespan to begin with that, let's say that, like Betty, for example, okay, they told us that she has bone cancer, which I don't believe. But let's say that we would have gone through things to do chemo for this supposed bone cancer, she probably would have been dead already because the medication itself kills in a different way.
Yeah.
So you have to figure out, is it best, what kind of quality of life is better here? And with chemo, it's usually just not pretty. Mm-hmm. I've never seen it turn out good. No. So anyways, I hope that answers that question. Again, everybody's situation is different. And there's never an answer that covers all of these things. But this is what I'm here for, too. So if any of you ever have this question, how do I know? Is it time?
Yeah.
We can do a reading and figure it out for you, for sure.
Oh, yeah, you can talk directly, too.
Yeah. I mean, I hate to give that kind of, say, oh, yeah, it's time. And then it's me, saying it's time. But right. I'm just giving the translation from the dog, interpreting from the dog or cat, whatever, what right. they want you to know. I'm not making the decision, really. I'm just telling you what they want.
And I tend to believe that animals have a greater sense of the other side while they're here in this dimension.
Yeah.
Living this life. They still have a greater awareness and connection to the other side. And a lot of that is telepathic.
Yes, absolutely. For sure. That makes a big difference, too. Yeah. They're not afraid to die like we are, really. Right. When we take them and, put them down or whatever, and we see the fear, that's not fear of death. Right. That's fear of what's going on, what's going to happen, and why is my owner so upset and stressed? Completely different. That's
probably the biggest one.
It is the biggest. I mean, unless it's an animal that really hates going to the vet and freaks out every time, then it's still going to,
Right.
Because it doesn't know why it's there unless you tell it.
Right.
So.
But you can have services that will come to your home.
Oh, those are great. Yeah, absolutely.
And do it, so there isn't that anxiety.
Yeah, those are very expensive, though. But yeah, they're great services for anybody that doesn't know that. So anyways, I hope, Cindy, that answers your question.
Thanks, Cindy.
Yep. And then the last thing that we do is I do a reading.
Yep.
And this is for a puppy today.
All right.
And this is from Agnesa. Yeah, Agnesa. Pretty name. Yeah. Okay, she said, I'd love if you can connect to my boy Dodo, who passed tragically in December. I really miss him every day and would love to know if he is around, if he was happy with us, and what he thinks of the new puppy we just got. I hope he doesn't think we replaced him. I need him to know that I love him so much and miss him every day. So something for all of you, for everybody, is when we go to the other side, whether we're animal or people, whatever, we know everything. Like, we know what's in the person's heart, how they feel, that they love us, why they did the things that they did. These things are not secret anymore. They're right. out there in the open. So for all of you, your animals know why you did things you did, why, how you feel, that you love them. They know it all, all of it. So let's talk to Dodo. He's Zuma's favorite type of dog, a little white dog.
Look at a little track
And he's got a
hoodie on.
tracksuit on. Yeah, it's cute. Yeah. I bought one of those for Zumi, like a little Adidas hoodie, and it didn't fit him because he's too big for...
he's dinosaur
They
size.
don't make it in dinosaur size, yeah. Okay, back to Dodo. All right. Okay. I'm going to avoid the tragic end because I don't want to get into it. But I can see it, and I don't like to see these things, you know, but we'll not talk about that.
Right.
Let's see. He was very happy with you. He had a wonderful life with you. He is showing me that this other puppy, he wants me to tell you, first of all, this other puppy is not the reincarnation of him. He will come back to you, but it's going to be a few years from now. But this puppy was a gift. It was a gift from the universe, kind of a way of saying, here's something to help you heal from what you've been through. You know, sorry for your loss. And that's what they arranged for us. Our dogs, our loved ones on the other side, our other pets, whatever. They arranged for these things to happen for us so that we can heal. And they know that we're not replacing them. They don't think that for 1 second because they are giving us these animals to help us. So he wants you to let go of that and any kind of guilt that you have a new puppy or, you know, that you're loving on the new puppy too much or anything like that because he wants you to do that. He wants you to have that love in your life. That's important. And just because he can't be there doesn't mean that you shouldn't have that fulfilled from somebody, from something else. He's showing me a man. I'm assuming this is husband or boyfriend, somebody like that, somebody that he was around a lot and loved very much too, and that he wants this person to also know that he is around them as well. Let's see what else she said here. He also wants you to know that he is very happy on the other side. He's one of those dogs that sometimes I see dogs run. I haven't seen one do this for a long time, but he's like panting and out of breath and running and so happy that he's got all this space to just, I'm seeing him do like zoomies, go back and forth. And he has all this space to do zoomies. And people ask me, what does this mean? Okay, because obviously they're not physical. So how is a past animal running around the Rainbow Bridge? Well, they show us these things kind of as a metaphor or like to show us what they like to do because really what they are is kind of like a ball of energy, like an orb, right? But they can show us in any form that they want to. Right. So in the vision, they show me what they want to show me to show you what exactly it is that they like to do. But obviously he's a ball of energy, so he may not necessarily be running across grass. But he is enjoying his time.
It's a state of consciousness. So, I mean, whatever we want to imagine while we're there, we can do that.
Yep. That's exactly right. Yep. So that's where it comes from. So, because I get asked that a lot. Like, well, how are they running around? And when Sequoia, the dog I talked about, when she passed, she wouldn't like slow down for a little while. Remember?
Right. Can't talk. Yeah. Sorry.
She was so excited to have all this energy and to be able to do whatever she wanted, you know? Yeah. So they are very excited to have that release of the physical body because the physical body is really like a weight. It really weighs us down. And the older we get and the more we have to drag it around, the worse it is. Yeah. So anyways, let's just check back in with Dodo real quick, see if he has anything else he wants to say. He says he's showing me laying like against your side, kind of putting warmth against your side. So if you ever feel that, that's a sign from him. A lot of animals will do this. Like if you all of a sudden feel like a part of your body is warm where they used to lay by. He's showing me that he still likes to lay there next to you, in between you and this man I was talking about watching TV. He's still there, is what he wants you to know. He's still there doing the things that he used to do. So he hears you when you talk to him as well. And he loves you very much. That's cool. So there's Dodo.
Dodo.
Yay. Thanks, Dodo.
Thanks, Dodo.
And Agnesa. Okay. Oh, and one more thing I just wanted to say real quick. We lost a family friend this week, and so I just wanted to say to Doreen and to the rest of our family that was close to her that she's missed, and rest in peace, Doreen.
She's a sweet lady.
Oh yeah, and she's a strong spirit already too. We went out to lunch, what was it, 2 days ago with the family, and she was there already, and it's like, whoa, she just died the day before. You know, but yeah.
It's funny because I was feeling compelled to say something about her
Were
too
you?
when you mentioned it.
Yeah, she always went like with us on Christmas and Thanksgiving and all the holidays and everything. She was like a part of the family, so she'll be
Yeah,
missed.
she's visited my family on Christmas for God, man.
Yeah.
40 years.
Yeah.
Maybe if not longer.
Always
so.
been a part of the family, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, rest in peace, Doreen.
But she's with her husband now,
Yep.
together again, her and Bud, so that's
Yes,
awesome.
that's beautiful.
Yeah.
So that's what I have for you from last week.
Very good.
Very good.
All right, then. Episode 147, Letting Go of Past or Painful Experiences, excuse me.
Yes. And we just talked about a few painful experiences here, didn't we?
Yeah.
So what I did with this episode is I did a poll in the discussion group about well, first I started with different episode topics, and I asked our listeners to let us know what they wanted to talk about most. And this was the number one thing they wanted to talk about. It got the most votes.
Cool.
So that's why we are doing this one today. And also...
Well, thanks for your votes, people.
Yes, thank you. A lot of this episode, pretty much all of it, is based on them. I mean, we're going to tell our own stories, but we also got their stories of painful experiences, things they can't let go of, ways that they were able to let go to help our listeners to relate to our other listeners, you know. Sometimes it's not the experience even that you have to let go of. It's those memories. It's the things that you replay in your head that you can't let go of, you know.
Right.
So I asked our listeners what the hardest things for them to let go of were. And we're going to talk about these things in the order that they said they were the hardest. And the first one is death of a loved one. And I'll tell you from my personal experience in my life, I've been through a lot. And that is definitely the hardest thing that I've been through. Do we have tissues in the studio?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, good. Because I was just thinking, I have an episode here about pain and loss, and I have no tissues. Yes, thank you. Okay, so I'm going to read this. This is from Tanya.
Okay.
She says, the death of my mom 25 years ago. My dad died 17 years ago, but there is no unresolved guilt. I know he went to be with my mom. And then Elizabeth said, my husband's death, the events during his passing and the transition, but also the interaction since. The loss of a loved one it's not always just the loss too that's hard. It's the other things that come with it that make the families a lot of times even turn against each other, you know. But I think one of the reasons that we have such a hard time letting go of the death of a loved one is, first of all, their presence. We're so used to it. And so when that's
just the sheer physical absence of it.
Oh, it's so hard. It's so hard.
Strange.
Especially when it's like a sudden loss. And like my mom and I talked every day. And then all of a sudden she's gone.
Yeah.
And it's like I can't call her. And it's just weird, you know. And we don't understand death either. Like we're taught really that it's a bad thing, you know. So when we lose somebody, kind of like what we were talking about before, there's like this guilt that sets in of like, I have a hard time being happy, you know, or I don't want to be happy because my loved one isn't here, or I feel guilty for being happy because they're not here. But really, they are always happy where they are on the other side. Yeah. And so we're not supposed to feel that for them, like guilt or you know, like they're missing something because they're so happy on the other side. Right. We're the ones that are left here learning these lessons. They're on the other side going, I get it now. It's clear. It makes sense. All of it makes sense. Yeah. Even when my mom died, to her death made sense. To me, it didn't. It took a long time for it to make sense to me. Yeah. You know, the death of my mom was something I never thought that I would be able to let go of. One of the things that I had to do in order to let go as much as I could, because it never completely goes away, is I had to stop replaying the memories in my head. Yeah. I had to stop thinking about the day that she died, about all of the things that weren't said, what was said the day before. I had to, like, there's things that you have to physically make yourself do so that you don't sit trapped in that grief. And, like, a lot of times it's, like, for me, not listening to her voice on my answering machine. Like, there were so many messages there that she had left, and I couldn't do it. It just made everything so much worse. Yeah. Those things, they will make a bad situation worse. And so at some point you have to say, I can't do this anymore. I have to let go. I have to move on. And they know that you're not letting go of their spirit and them and their memories. What you're letting go of is being trapped by whatever it is that's holding you back because of their death.
Yeah. I just definitely agree that the experience of death or losing someone to death it's so affecting, like, in compounding ways, because it's not just like the physical absence of this person and knowing that you'll never see them in the flesh again. That in itself is very bizarre.
Yeah.
But then there becomes this question of your own mortality, right? Now death always puts life into perspective.
Yeah, it does.
So you're sitting there questioning your own mortality or length of time left. Then if it's something that's out of the natural order of things,
yeah,
let's say it's a parent that loses a child.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, that sort of tends to what we kind of look as like the laws of nature, or should or should not be.
Yeah.
It rocks our foundation there, too.
Oh, yeah.
So it's so, like, just incredibly affecting from so many different ways and angles.
Yeah.
All at once.
Yeah.
So it's no wonder that it's completely overwhelming when it happens.
Yeah.
For me, I haven't lost a parent yet. Thank God. I'm very lucky, and I don't look forward to that day.
No, death is never fun.
But I've lost people that are more like peers, and on some level, that's almost more shocking because, wait a minute.
Right.
You're my age,
Oh, yeah.
Rob was a big one for me.
Yeah.
From Contradiction, it was like, wait a minute, hold on. We were just starting to, kind of develop our friendship and get back into, there was years we didn't really see each other for a long time after playing music, but just knowing that I couldn't call him up, because I'd be playing music with him right now if he was here.
Yeah, for sure.
So, but I couldn't do that.
Right.
And that was bizarre.
Right.
After knowing I've had conversations, I've been around him, I'd worked on some projects with him,
Yeah.
and that was never going to be again.
Right. We also have a tendency to sit in our own shit.
Yes.
And I did this with my mother, and this is the number one reason why I do what I do, besides my love for animals, is so that I can help people to not do that. Because I really felt like the whole world was against me, like I had lost everything, like the rest of my life was just going to be horrible. And that's not it at all. Like, the grief, it sucks when you're in the middle of it. It really does. But once you start really getting through it, you do get better. Things do get better. And we really do have to let things go and stop asking, why is this happening to me? Because there's always a reason. It's a part of our story. It's a part of our simulation. It's a part of the other person's story too, and the rest of the family members that are involved. It's not just about us when we lose somebody. It's about the whole story. Yeah. And it is very hard to see that when it's happening. Death is also a cycle. Mm-hmm. And if we can see that, that helps too, to realize that they're not dead. And I did a reading this morning for a lady who lost her son. And I hate those. It is so hard when they're out of the natural order. But she's seeing already, that it's just a different dimension. They're always here. They're right here with us. It's not death. And they don't like it that we call it that, because it's not the end. It's just the end of that part of the cycle. Now they're in energy form, in spirit form. They're not in this physical form anymore, but they're still here. The difference is that we don't see them like they see us, because they're at a different vibrational rate. Right. So really, it's not the end. It's not death.
No.
It's just really hard to go through that grief cycle and remind ourselves that it's normal, that it's okay to go through it, but that we have to bring ourselves out of it within a realistic amount of time. Yeah. Like, really, honestly, I think it was like 3 years for me that I took before I felt like I was somewhat healed from my mom's death. And that was way too long. But I did it myself. I strung it along myself because I couldn't let it go. I couldn't. Yeah. And I thought that that's what she wanted. I thought she didn't want me to let it go when the whole time she did.
And it's funny with death when we talk about the guilt that comes with it. Let's say a parent loses a child, the amount of guilt they feel for why me?
Right.
I mean, why them and not me?
Right.
Excuse me. And then, like in this situation, you're losing a parent, right? Your mom was relatively young. She wasn't
51.
Old age,
Yep.
So that is kind of not really, that's out of the natural order of things. She was young.
Right.
So it's shocking.
Right.
And so we go through this immense amount of guilt, and we always hear that time is the greatest healer, which I totally agree with. We need to put space between, meaning life. We need to live life and have some of that in between the now and the moment that situation occurred. And we call that time.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But it's really just going about your life.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean you're forgetting them or you don't miss them or you don't love them.
Yeah.
But the whole purpose of this and kind of what you're saying earlier about the animals and the loved ones that are over there, and they have now a greater knowledge and understanding of the universe and why we do what we do in these lives. So they're not looking at it anymore from a completely human standpoint.
Right.
They are now divinely informed.
Yeah.
So the idea of them over there being sad because they're not here with you, they're in the presence of God.
Yeah.
And angels and wonderful things. They now have a great understanding of the difference between here and there. And as much as they love and miss us as humans, I think the other side overall is much more enticing.
Yeah.
And wonderful.
Yeah.
Than this side.
Yeah, this is the school.
This is the harder part.
It is, yep.
So they understand that, and they know that what's most important is that you continue to live your life, because your life individually is unique to itself,
Yep.
to you. And you have a path and a journey and a reason, whether you figured it out or not, to be here.
Yeah.
You made an agreement and a reason to be here. That is your gift.
Yeah.
Don't give up that gift because they had to go.
Yep, totally agree. Totally. You know what? I wouldn't be here if my mom wouldn't have died. I wouldn't. There's no way. I was basically in training from the day she died until I learned about my abilities, and still. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I never, if somebody would have told me that at the beginning, I would have thought they were crazy, but it happened for a reason, for so many reasons. And I can see that now. And that's retrospect in time, like you said.
Yeah.
So let's go on to the next one. And that was death of a pet. And Tanya, the rest of hers, I'm going to read that because she got into death of a pet too. She said, getting mad at my 2-year-old cat for messing with my bunny, and then I threw him out the door. I live in the Knolls, which is like what kind of rustic area. I don't know.
Yeah.
Lots of hills and coyotes
Yeah.
and stuff. She said, I never saw him again, coyotes. I accidentally locked my 9-year-old cat out of the house for the coyotes to snatch. Guilt.
Yeah.
I don't do well with guilt. And recently, the death of my 16-year-old cat a month and a half ago. And then Melissa said, the death of my cat. He never wanted much to do with me until the last few years of his life. He disappeared without a trace 2 years ago, and I still cry almost every day. I feel so sorry for people that have a missing animal and don't get closure.
That sucks.
Oh, it really does. And I do a lot of those readings, and they're really hard because, yeah, there's no closure. And so that's why I try and give them closure. You know, at least so you know they're with somebody or they've passed, so that there's some kind of something there,
nice to
you know. But guilt with the death of a pet is something that I see so much in my job. And it's for a lot of the same reasons as humans and what we had talked about when I did the reading earlier. But a lot of it is because we're putting human emotions on an animal and we think that they hate us. I get so many times, does my animal hate me for putting them to sleep? Or, I didn't do this just the right way, or I feel bad about this. They don't hold on to those things. No. Those are human emotions, and we need to learn to get rid of those. That is definitely for me on this list as well, the second hardest thing that I've been through. I've talked about Sierra and her hemangiosarcoma, but the first loss that I had of an animal that was my own animal was actually a ferret. And she's one of the reasons why I don't believe in chemo for animals, because we tried chemo with her and it fried her from the inside. And she died on New Year's Eve. And it was so hard for me. It was so hard. I walked around thinking, how do people not feel my pain right now? How are they going about their lives, Right. It's a miserable feeling because there isn't closure. The animal, you feel like the animal didn't know what happened. I had to leave them in a cage. She was there to die by herself at the vet when that happened. It was horrible. Yeah. And you think about all of these things, but you know what? We have to remember that when they get to the other side, it's different. They see things. They realize you were doing what was best for them by, having them at the vet or whatever. And like with these missing pets that die, they know that you didn't kick them out on purpose, that you weren't like, get out and never come back. They know that. Right. Things happen, unfortunately.
They do. I mean, they're very aware, like you didn't put their head in a guillotine and intentionally kill them.
Right. And you know what? Even if you did, the animals have forgiveness.
Yeah. Oh, everything does over there. There. Nothing's harbored in that way.
Definitely.
But animals didn't have hate. They don't understand hate.
No.
Here. I mean, even you could look at the most scariest pit bull.
Yeah.
And think, that dog doesn't understand hate. What it understands is defense.
Fear. Mm-hmm.
Yes, it's defending out of fear.
Exactly.
But it doesn't understand hate. Right. It doesn't look, at another animal and think, I hate you because you're little or you look different or whatever. Some animals can be trained to be aggressive, but I think their natural instinct is not out of hate. They don't understand that. So they're not going to see it definitely from this side. I mean, the other side, if they're not even feeling that emotion here.
One of the main reasons that our pets are put here is to help teach us lessons. So when you have something that happens like this, there's often either a lesson or a reason. Like with Sierra, for me, it was learning about hemangiosarcoma, that I work with people every day, pretty much, that have gone through that, and it helps me. There's always reasons. Everything happens for a reason. It just doesn't always make sense when it does. Yeah. But our animals don't want us to hold on to this, the guilt, the not getting other animals because, we think that they wouldn't like it, or because it is too hard when they die. They don't want us to look at things like that, because animals are really in our lives to make us happy too, besides just the lessons and all that. They're supposed to bring us joy. Yeah. And even after death, they want us to remember, the good stuff.
Yeah.
So. Okay, let's move on to the next one. The third thing that our listener said was hard to let go of is childhood trauma. And you got two people in this room that totally understand childhood trauma. This one actually is a combination of childhood trauma and animal issues. This is from Nicole. She said, my mom forced me to abandon a box of kittens and her mom on the side of the road. It still makes me tear and I get choked up. I still feel so incredibly guilty, even though I had to do it. I was 8 or 9 years old.
Yeah, that's rough.
Yeah. And so I asked her, was it a stray cat or was it your own cat? And she said it was a stray cat that my uncle brought home to my grandmother's house. We would play with her and she was either pregnant or ended up getting pregnant. My mom tried dumping them off at a shelter, but they didn't accept them. So the next thing my mom did was order me to do that. The guilt and grief was awful so many years because I remember crying and looking back at them while we drove off. Oh, that's just horrible. And I'm so sorry that you had to go through that, Nicole. But something to please remember in any kind of childhood trauma is that you were the child.
Yeah.
And the adult that caused this trauma, or, even in this case, the adult may not have realized that they were causing trauma. It's their fault. Mm-hmm. It is. So as much as I get it because I've been there, but as much as you blame yourself, you got to try and let that go because you didn't know any better and you didn't have control of the situation. You were a child. You couldn't say anything. What could you do?
Right.
There was nothing. So in these kinds of situations, we really have to try and let it go.
Yeah.
And remember that everything does happen for a reason, and just try. You know, I also, like what I said to Nicole with this kind of situation, is I try and put a happy ending at the end of this. Like, somebody saw that box of kittens and the mom there. Maybe that box of kittens and the mom was meant for somebody.
And ended up in a good place.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So even though you may not know that that's the outcome, it does help to put a positive outcome to a story that you don't have an ending to, and just convince yourself that that's the end result.
Yeah.
You know, even if it wasn't.
Yeah, don't beat yourself up.
No, definitely not. Jen said, nasty divorce between my parents when I was in the most important and transformative years as a preteen. Emotional and mental abuse suck between both parents. Not so fun. Yes. I think that parents have a tendency to forget when they're going through a divorce that the divorce is between them and it's not about their children.
Yeah.
With learning about my new family, that's been hard for me to grasp, is the things my mom did, like that talking bad about the man she said was my father, who wasn't even my father, and she knew that. It's like, that's a different level of trauma, you know? It's just, the parents, they really need to think before they do things like this. It makes me sad, you know? And my brother was, he went through the divorce with my stepdad and our mother, and he has a lot of trauma from that too. You know, it depends, I think, a lot on the child's age, but we need to remember, if we go through those types of things, not to bring our children into it, not to try and turn them against the other parent, because that's not fair.
No, and most likely what that's going to do, I can't say most likely, often what happens is the parent that's doing that to the child ends up resenting that parent.
Yep.
And then that's a damaged relationship.
Yep.
So
the next one actually is abusive parents or other relationship. And I want to read this from Lori. Lori's a good friend of mine, and she was raised Jehovah's Witness. And she says, I have worked on letting go for many years. Most of the time, I feel like I've healed many layers, but a situation with my family is still ongoing due to my having left a religion that endorses shunning by your family if you choose to no longer be a part of said religion. My family considers it to be a type of tough love, so it's difficult to completely let go when the situation is never resolved and is ongoing, and it hurts like hell. I do my best to tell myself it is what it is and know that I cannot change them. That sucks. Yeah, it really does. That's religion. It shouldn't take you away from the people that you love. It should bring you closer to them, you know? And it's like, in this instance, I would love to say, Lori, that, you know, reach out to them, but I know it's them, it's their religion, it's not you. There's nothing that you can do, because until they decide to kind of not, you know, take that as a part of their religion, if at all, it's going to sit there. How do you, you know, make somebody understand when they're so set on something like that?
Yeah.
You know? But I know, I'll tell you, more people that have been abused by their parents or in a relationship or both than people that haven't. I honestly don't know many that haven't.
Yeah.
I think that it's really common, and we a lot of times want to blame ourselves that we didn't walk away from the relationship, if it was a relationship compared to a parent, that we should have seen the signs or whatever. But it's not. There's a lot of reasons. A lot of times it's trauma that keeps us in bad situations, because we feel like this is all that we know.
Yeah.
Or this is where we're supposed to be. We're not supposed to, you know, fight this situation or whatever. Right. But we have to remember that this is our lives, and that whatever's done to us by our parents or other people, that we can't let that control our lives or lead it in a certain direction, because that's what they've done to us, you know?
Yeah. I mean, if a child's too young to make a choice to get up and walk out, you know, because they just can't do it and support themselves at that age, that's not on them.
Yeah.
If you're an adult and you stick around for it, and I'm sure there's people that feel trapped in their relationships that right now that's going on.
Yeah. And
they don't see a way out even as an adult. But there is There's always a way.
There's always a way.
Always
Absolutely. A way. Absolutely. And if you see signs, like if you're in a relationship and you start seeing signs that it's going to be abusive, don't think twice about getting out before the abusive gets worse, because it's not going to get better. It only gets worse. I was in a relationship like that where I started to see the violent side. And it took me a few months to find a way out and to get out. But once the violence started, I knew that it was always going to be like that. There's no undoing that once it's done. So that's, a little advice from the universe. Run.
And sometimes we subconsciously pick that even as an adult because, I don't know, maybe we're drawn to it subconsciously. We don't even know it yet, or it's what we knew in the past, growing up, because I grew up with it in my family growing up. And then I was with somebody for 18 years.
Yeah.
That it was the same thing.
Yeah.
And it took me, I still to this day, I go, well, why did it take so long for me to make that choice, to say enough? I don't know. And I don't really sit and ponder that question for very long, because I do feel like I made the choice, and that's what's most important. I did make the choice.
Yeah.
And I have to rely on that everything does happen, in divine timing and for a reason.
Yes.
And so whatever the reason was, it's, I'll say, improved,
Yep.
It's done a 160-degree turn,
Yep.
or
Absolutely.
180-degree turn. I mean, it's like, it's just, but I had to make that choice.
Yeah, you absolutely. And actually, that's the next one on our list is divorce and breakup.
Yeah.
And those that can be very difficult, especially if you're not the one that wants the divorce. It can be very difficult. But one thing I want to say first about the abuse is I got this message, okay? And I know that this is for somebody, maybe even many of our listeners out there. If it resonates for you, please take it. There is no one that has the right to physically touch you, hurt you, hit you, anything like that. And if anybody ever does, you leave.
Yeah.
It's not, even emotional abuse, any of it, it's not, you have to protect you. And that's the most important thing, really, is you're here for you and your children, if you have children, to protect yourself and your children. Okay, so let's move on to divorce and breakup. This is from Yvette. She said, getting a divorce. I feel so much guilt because my children were not able to have a whole family. They don't know any difference and it sucks. I carry that guilt daily. He was and is a good man. I was just not happy and gave up too soon. I was a different person 10 years ago. Now in my early 40s, I wonder if I could have worked on myself like I do now to make it work. This was the beginning of my awakening, and I was so lost and confused with myself. You know what, Yvette? Besides the children part, I understand, because I left a marriage that a lot of people probably thought, why is she leaving? Because there were no really big issues, really. It was just that we weren't compatible, like we weren't living life together. And that's not fair. You have to live your life and be happy. And yeah, your children, they may look at things in a different way than what you see it. So try not to worry so much about, what you've done to them, because they may see it differently. Yeah. But both of us, we can understand, because neither one of us had really both parents together at the same time. I didn't have a dad at all. Yeah. So, and I'm okay. Yeah. Look, I'm okay. I have a lot of damage, but I've learned from it. And one of the great things that's happened is having Danny and Marina come into my life. I've been able to make a family and learn what it is like to have a family that I didn't have before. And so sometimes these things happen, when we get older, or to our kids, that we do get to experience it just in a different way. That was taken away from me as a kid, but now I have the opportunity to have it. So don't rule out that your kids won't ever have the chance to have like a real family, because when they're older, they will. Yeah.
I relate to that, though, that I have guilt, because asking for, divorce with a child, there's a lot of that guilt when it comes to the child, because at that point, I kind of had the American dream. Had bought a home recently, the dog and the cat in the yard, and wife and kid, and knowing that I had to sort of strip that all away and start over. And the other part was knowing that my child was going to be somewhere half the time, because we split custody for the most part. They were going to be somewhere else where I couldn't protect them.
Yeah.
That was hard for me. And so I still carry a lot of like pain about that.
Yeah.
And I don't have any inclination that our daughter feels that way towards me about it, but I carry that.
Yeah.
Like, all the unnecessary time that had to go on for, but I guess I still have to look at it as that's how it was supposed to go.
Yeah.
So I have to let it be okay.
Yes.
And then do everything that we can for our daughter to help her.
Yeah.
Whatever, facilitate those feelings and traumas that she's got, whatever it's going to be. Mm-hmm. But just do the best I can now that she's here full time.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so we have 10 minutes left, so I want to talk about a couple more of these areas real quick, and then we have some ways of letting go of things. But some of the other things that our listener said was loss of money, bankruptcy, loss of job or career, loss of home and foreclosure. Yeah. But one of them, the one I want to read, is serious injury. Ooh. And this is from Kat. She said, having my face mauled by a dog at work. I was a dog groomer. Wow. I haven't been able to go back to work fully, and I am now afraid of most dogs, which breaks my heart. Yeah, I was thinking about that when I read that. Yeah, that's horrible. And you know what? I read this horrible article about a pet sitter that had her face mauled by two dogs, face and everything. Like, she was really messed up. And I thought, God, I've worked so many years with animals. I'm very lucky that I never was mauled like that. But, I tried not to put myself in that situation. But with dog grooming, it's almost like you just don't have the choice. It's like being a vet or a vet tech. It's like it's there. It can happen to you any day, at any time. And I can definitely understand the fear of dogs after that, for sure. Yeah. We have the drummer in Danny's band. His daughter was attacked and killed by a pit bull. Yeah. And he has a lot of trauma from it. Absolutely, you can tell. Oh, yeah. For sure. So, yeah, and being left with those injuries is a constant reminder that you had that happen to you, too. Yeah. But, yeah, at some point, I guess, you have to say, it happened. Yeah. I can't go back and undo it. It happened for a reason. Whatever the reason is, I might not know right now. But, I got to move on, because it was just one piece of my story. Yep. As hard as that may be. Yeah. Okay, so let's see. Real quick, let's talk, what is the hardest part of letting go? Let's listen to what a couple of our listeners said. Crystal said, coming to the realization that I was holding on too tight and it isn't going to work long term for soul growth. Cassie said fear of failing, fear of losing everything and everyone. Candace said the attachment. And Susan said closing the door and walking on. Chris said not knowing why it happened. Why was I not good enough? Why my son couldn't survive? She had a stillborn son. And those are the things that we hold on to. Why was I not good enough? You are good enough. Yeah. That's not it. That's not it at all. It's not about being good enough. It's about other things, Bad things happen to everybody. They do, unfortunately. And that's how we learn. And that's what's kind of unfortunate from this angle and this side of the dimension, is that the pain is hard. Right. But on the other side, they don't have those things that can evoke those emotions. So they see the value. Right. That's what I mean. Part of that greater knowledge. Right. They see the value in the lessons and the emotions that go behind it. Right. So the first one that you read in those comments was really, to me, like this. I know I can't grow. Mm-hmm. And there's no magical light switch that I can give you directions to
within your body that you can go and switch this on and off
Yeah.
in you. That is part of your lesson, is to go in and find that.
Yep.
Where is that in you that you can turn that guilt off and move on and come to the realization, like the first person said, I will not grow.
Yep.
If I can't come to this realization and accept that this happened, it's unfortunate. I can cry, I can laugh, I can scream, whatever I need to do, but I've got to find a way to move forward.
Yep. Absolutely. Amy said, letting go of the old version of you. And that is so difficult too, because we're so attached to this old version of us. And we think, like, for me, sometimes I feel like, okay, if there's a behavior that I'm doing and I know that that's not the right behavior and I go to correct it, well, what am I doing there? Am I doing what's right, or am I being phony because that's not who I am? No, I'm doing what's right. I'm correcting the behavior. I have to let go of the old behaviors in order to move on and be a better whole person, you know? And holding on to those things that have happened to us, they are really hard to let go of, and so they just keep us trapped sometimes. They really do. They keep us trapped. And then Hannah said, let me get back there. She said, forgiveness. Some situations it's hard to forgive and not forget. And I hear you feel better after forgiving and letting go, but the hurt behind it makes it hard. Forgiveness is hard. But one thing about forgiveness is that if you can forgive the other person unconditionally, it's very freeing for you.
Yeah.
It's very, very freeing. Even if, I don't know. You may not think that somebody did something for the right reasons or whatever, and you still have to forgive. Let it go. It really is the most important thing.
And you could do this in a couple ways. I mean, obviously, you could go to therapy and talk about these things. That's very helpful and beneficial.
Yeah.
Because a lot of it is we need to get this. It's called processing. We need to get these emotions and thoughts and feelings and whatever it is that's swirling around in us. We need to get it processing and to get it out.
Yes, absolutely.
Now, when I say get it out, we're just talking about it. It doesn't mean that the thought and the emotion goes away completely, but there is some level of freedom when you hear yourself say it.
Yes.
Or you can do other things, like if you've lost a loved one or a pet or something, sit down with an intention of, I'm going to write this letter to them. Whether I can actually send it to them or if they're dead, that I can't. But you're setting this intention of, these are my thoughts and my feelings about the whole thing, and they will know.
Right.
Trust me, they're going to be right there.
Right.
The minute you sort of set that intention when you sit down to write this is part of my process of grieving and letting go.
Yep.
They will be sitting right with you, watching you write this, but they don't need to see a word you write because they're hearing everything you're saying in your mind.
Yeah, absolutely.
And by setting that intention, you're giving your subconscious a goal, right? So it's going, oh yeah, you're right. I wrote that letter a couple days ago, and I kind of feel better.
Yeah.
Like I feel like I let something off my chest.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's another form of getting it out of you, processing it and getting it out.
Yes. Yes. And really something, I mentioned this at the beginning, that is so important in this process is to stop replaying the memories. Something that I heard a long time ago, and I don't remember where I heard it, is that when we remember something, we're not remembering the initial time that it happened. We're remembering the last time we remembered it. Yeah. And so sometimes, just like the telephone game, those memories start to get a little bit different. We start to remember them a little bit different, and they can get all over the place. Yeah. So we need to stop replaying the same memories. It doesn't do us any good. It's not going to change what happened. So there's no point in it.
Right.
This is something that I talk about, and I had to do with a lot of things. One of the things I do is go to my happy place. If I start to feel those memories coming in and can't get them out of my mind, I go in my mind to my happy place. Find your happy place. Mine is Disneyland. And I explore Disneyland in my head. Right. And you do whatever it is that makes you happy and what your happy place is. You just daydream that in your head until the thought goes away. But when you continuously think about things and replay the memories, it just makes it worse. You can't change things. No. So stop doing that. Even with things that happened yesterday, stop. We all need to do that.
Right.
And it's very hard, but we need to do it. And also something is baby steps. These things, these that we have to let go of, are not going to go away overnight.
No.
It takes time. It takes patience in working on these things. So don't be frustrated if you fall down again. Right. Because you will, and you'll fall down again after that, and we all do, and that's okay.
The patience is important. It's like a good analogy is when you eat, it takes, they say roughly like 10 minutes for the message to get to your brain that your stomach is actually full. So kind of the same analogy in this sense is you do a little bit of these kind of baby steps, some of this work of whether you talk to a therapist or you talk to your pastor or your best friend.
Or me.
Or Samantha. Psychic. And you get some of these things out of you, let it simmer for a little bit.
Yeah.
Let the message get to your brain and it all kind of settle and see if you feel a difference.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen immediately. There is patience involved.
Right.
But if you're doing something to better yourself and to ease some of your burden, it's not going to go unnoticed.
Right.
Not by the other side. They will answer that prayer of help and guidance, and you'll feel different, but you've got to work at it a little.
Yep. Hannah had brought up the forgive and forget, and really I think a better way to look at this is forgive and accept.
Yeah.
You can't forget. You'll never going to forget. With finding my new family, I have to continuously tell myself not to get mad about the things that my mom did. It's not going to change things. It's not going to bring my childhood back. It's not going to do any of those. I have to let it go. I have to just accept the fact that this is how things played out and there's a reason for it, and not beat myself or my mom up and replay bad memories or whatever. We can't do that to ourselves. It's not fair. We are supposed to enjoy our lives and not constantly relive the things that made us have trauma. It's not how it's supposed to be. Not at all.
Absolutely.
Yep. One last thing before we go is that this is a week that I decided to make a music playlist, and I've just started working on it, but I'll put the link in with this episode. So like when you go down and you see what the episode is about and stuff, you'll see the Spotify link, and then you just go there and you can listen to the songs. But some of them, one of the ones that, it's funny, it's been coming on the radio, is A Better in Time by Leona Lewis. And this is one that I listened to a lot when my mom, when I got to the point where I needed to start healing from losing my mom, because it talks about, I'm going to smile because I deserve to. And stuff like that. So that's a strong song. So that's one of my favorites on here. Also, You Learn by Alanis. And this one's for my sister, Shake It Off by Taylor Swift. She says she wants that to be her burial song at her funeral.
Shake it off.
I like that's a good one. But yeah, it's a good song to let it go. Yeah. Shake it off.
You Learn it's got a great message,
Yeah, it does. It does, and it's on the list with many, many, many more. So, and if anybody has songs they want to add to it, just let me know, and I'll put them on there.
Cool.
So, but that's it. I think. I mean, that we could go on and on about this topic too, but it's something we're all learning to do, and
I think the big one is take it easy on yourself.
Yeah.
And if you got to do it in baby steps, that's okay.
Yeah.
But you've got to make those first steps. Like you said, also that we love to sit in our crap for
we do.
a while, and we're the only ones that are really going to pull us out.
Yeah.
Others can stand around and encourage us and help us and lend a hand, but it's our choice.
Yeah, what good does it do to sit there and fester in it? And, woe is me, this happened. There's a great big world out there of new experiences that, you don't have to let go of. You can just go and try.
Yeah.
Because you haven't done them yet.
That's true.
Yeah. So,
cool.
Yay.
Well, good job.
Thank you.
That was a good one.
Yeah, and thank you so much to our discussion group because they really made this episode what it was.
Thanks for the participation.
Yep. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Well, before we say goodbye to everybody, you want to share your information?
Yes, you can find me at SamanthaJonesPsychicMedium.com. You can find us on the web anywhere you search at Spiritual Joneses. We should come up for that. Facebook, Instagram. And if you would like to email us, spiritualjoneses@gmail.com. And the discussion group, there's a link to it on our Facebook page as well.
Cool.
Yep.
Nice.
Yay. And you, sir?
Oh, yes. For my art, djonesartcollection.com for the web, at djonesartcollection for Instagram and Facebook. I do recently, thanks to my lovely wife, have an Etsy page now. I don't know. It is
It's D. Jones Art
That's
Collection.
it.
Mm-hmm.
Making it easy.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Way to go, babe.
Yay.
So yes, there's we don't have all the pictures up yet, but
Working on it.
we're working on it. There are some, but you can also go to the webpage. But there's D. Jones Art Collection Etsy store out there for you too.
So excited about that.
Yeah, I mean too.
Yeah.
Thanks for doing that.
Yeah, of course.
Looks cool.
Yay.
And that's all I got this week. Cool. Well, we hope everybody got something out of it.
That we do.
I did. And, go about your day and just let it go, man.
Yeah, like the song says in Frozen, let it go.
Yeah, just let it go.
Yep.
Well, we hope everybody has a good week.
That we do.
And until next week,
Peace and love.